Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay, and welcome to the Battle for Azeroth beta and the second pass for the Shadow Priest. Now, this was like a 5-hour VOD, so I'm going to open with this saying that if you want to see and listen to all the discussion we had about the Shadow Priest, go check the video description box down below. There was like a good 2-hour just discussion section about what is wrong and what is good, what is bad, was all this. I cannot encapsulate all of that in this video. However, I will go over talent adjustments, spells and abilities that have been lost or gained, what has been kept from your Legion artifacts or legendaries, any new graphics, a brief overview of the War Mode talents, and any GCD changes therein. There will be no true gameplay in this video or this series, of course, so consider this more of a one-man podcast walkthrough primer of what your spec is going to be like from Legion into the Battle for Azeroth. Of course, we'll go show off some things in the target dummies. And again, check the video description box down below for the entire VOD if you want to listen to all the nonsense we get into. And of course, questions, comments, concerns, feedback about this spec, leave it down below in the comments section so we can all see what's going on and what you guys think, or where you know, what different opinions you have about what's going on with the Shadow Priest, because, you know, And then, of course, if you're new here and you enjoy my ramblings or you want to be up to date on when new videos come out, consider hitting the subscribe button down there. That's how YouTube works, I think. So, Mr. Bigglesworth, you were sitting with me, but like any cat, you eventually get tired. Oh, gosh, the Shadow Priest. I don't even know how to begin other than this weird graphical bug. Come on, can I have my... There we go. Shadow Priest, with this whole Voidform thing, is and has been either really great or really awkward. And we're in sort of a middle ground period right now where the biggest back and forth about Shadow Priest is that Voidform doesn't feel worth it. I did not know this, and I'm going to go over this at the beginning of this video before I go over the normal stuff, because I want to make sure I preface the fact right off the bat before people turn the video off that I definitely think there are some pratfalls or some shortcomings with Shadow Priest right now. That being said, it just does still work. There may or may not be very many talent options because of the Insanity system and because of some numerical tuning. But again, as you know, if you're part of this series for a long time now, I don't care about numbers because numbers don't matter. Numbers don't matter right now, not until we're on live and not really until we're through the entire first tier, to be honest, because numbers are going to change every 0.5 patch roughly. However, Voidform, I did not know this. When you are in Shadow Form, Shadow Form has the 10% spell damage increase, and of course the reduction in physical damage taken, which helps in, you know, PvP and whatnot. And some instances in PvE, if there's like, you know, physical damage, sort of AoE, I hear. The void's coming up inside of me because I'm starting to talk about this. This is not... But when you go into Void Form, they changed it so it's a 10% spell damage increase as well. And you can only have one form active at a time. So you don't really gain anything. So my first thought was that why is this still not 20%? So you go from 10% by default, which is, of course, the hook for staying in your form. And then you go 20% when you go into Void Form. You also lose the physical damage taken stance for the whole time you're in Void Form. I don't know why it's just not part of Void Form. I don't know. The Mind Blast cooldown reduction has been changed a little bit. Let me go to my notes. So Mind Blast is now minus 1.5 seconds, but that doesn't really impact too much because Mind Blast's overall cooldown is down to 7.5 from 9. So it's the same as you have on live overall, just a little less in the form, but a little faster outside the form as well. You're going to see this big paradigm shift that Blizzard wants you to be in and out of Void Form roughly at a 50-50 pace. Whereas now on live, you're definitely like 70 to 80% in Void Form, fighting it and staying inside a lot. And then you're only outside of it a little bit just to get right back into Void Form. Now you're about a 50-50, 60-40, somewhere in there. And the biggest other thing here is that the speed of the spec has been slowed down. It's only 0.5% haste for every 1 second you're in Void Form. On average, even trying to game the system, you're seeing about 20, maybe 25 stacks. Which, in relative terms of Legion to BFA, it could be just like how the different number system works, right? But because those stacks are half as effective now, that also is a weird point. I'll also go over the fact that I'm not wearing these bracers here, and when I start doing some target dummy, throwing spells and whatnot, we looked through the entire tier 1 of Mythic Uldir and all the potential gear to fill in the gaps to have haste in every single slot for the entire first tier of the game for BFA as it currently stands. Barring any Azerite traits, because we don't have any raid Azerite traits right now. They don't exist, so we can't look at them. I had a couple viewers find out that you can get just under 17% haste at level 120. So I'm a 110 character. There's no 120 copies right now. So I tried to emulate that. I took off one piece of gear, got right to 16.64% haste. That is apparently what we're going to have after Mythic farming the first tier of BFA. So that these numbers I'm doing here, the 20-ish stacks that I can get to in Voidform, are relatively, as it currently stands, similar to what's happened after the tier 1 Mythic, which is very different than what you're doing on Legion right now. But we cannot compare the two games because they're very different number systems. So, again, the first things I don't know about. Why Voidform isn't 20% damage increase. Why you lose the physical damage reduction stance. And the 0.5% haste down from the 1% you're used to on live right now. I almost can guarantee this will go to 1% at some point in the near future. They're going to just tweak that back up again, or at least give you the 20% damage back, because they need to make this form feel more rewarding. Because right now, it's not. We're going to hop down here real quick before I go into anything more. And the spec plays. Like, I have certain talents like that right now. I'm not going to really abide by many of them. I'm not going to really play with any of like that. We have Shadowward Void, right, which is just like your belt, essentially, with 2 charges of Mind Blast, right? We'll just go with that. But, I mean, the spec plays. And it works just fine. And it looks awesome. And the animations are great. And the little hooks you have here are really good. But overall, if the numerical side of things doesn't work out, to be in Voidform for as long as you possibly can. And this is the weird thing right here. There's a GCD problem with how Void Bolt scales right now, which is a little bit off because of how much less haste you have. This is like no talent interaction right now. I'm going to get to 19 stacks. 18, 19 stacks right now. Pretty average. And again, I'm not using any other combinations to extend that right now. You'll notice that your apparitions travel a lot slower now. If they have to travel up to a target for, I believe, 10 seconds, they'll still do their full damage. Also, Shadowward Void doesn't have its animation fixed because actually if you have Mind Blast, there's a new animation ending on it, which looks really neat. But the spec plays. Like, it works. I'm just casting spells right now. Don't freak out. And it looks really good. The issue inherent here is that it's just, you lose a lot or don't gain enough by wiggling in and out of Voidform right now. So, and again, going back over all these baseline things, your apparitions travel slower now for some reason, mostly just for the ambiance, I guess. I don't know why. But if they ever have to chase after a target for 10 seconds, the damage will just happen and they'll disappear, which is just kind of strange and weird, whatever. That's fine. Your mastery was updated now. It includes sort of everything, all your core abilities. So it's Shadowward Pain and VT. It's Mind Blast and Mind Flay and Mind Seer. It's Void Eruption, which is the entering spell to go into Void Form, and Void Bolt. Right now on live, it's only Shadowward Pain, VT, and Void Bolt, which is kind of eh. So now it scales across the board with a lot more of your core abilities, right? That's a good change. Definitely a good change. Again, the Void Form change, the weirdness about it, not sure. The other problem here, which I don't think should have been changed whatsoever, is that Void Bolt should add 3 seconds to your dots. Right now, on live, it does. They changed this, so it only adds 2 seconds. So there are some situations where you actually have to reapply your dots in Void Form, and that is not good. It's just kind of wonky, right? Void Eruption had some amazing quality of life changes there. You saw it a little bit there. So it hits all targets within 10 yards of your target instead of hitting everything that has Shadowward Pain or VT on them. So no need to cross out anymore. It requires 60 to activate if you have Legacy of the Void. We'll talent away from that. We'll take Dark Ascension here. And it takes 90 to activate. And during Void Form, of course, it replaces with Void Bolt, which we went over as well. Very hard hitting, scales with your mastery, all that good stuff. So, that is a nice change. The AoE component of Void Eruption is very nice. The one big thing that I kind of went off on a tangent about is that, barring the numerical side of things, the changes to Shadow Priest and giving you some really reliable good AoE is super nice. It's very much bursty, because dots have a bit of an issue right now with scaling, which we go over to next. Vampiric Touch only lasts 21 seconds now. They did give you back the 50% damage equals healing. This was 30% earlier, so they put that back in. Of course, still has the horror effect, still the same insanity generation. And Shadowward Pain is 18 seconds on live. It was 14 seconds a couple builds ago. Now it's 16 seconds. Again, don't know why dot changes happened. I think, or theorize, they tried to do this so they can... dots have a shorter duration to do the same amount of damage roughly so that they work better in cleave and AoE situations. Kind of, but I don't know. It overall just feels kind of bad because you have to fight your dots even in Void Form, which doesn't feel good. So the overall kit change here is that you have more Void Forms, more Void Eruptions, less time in each Void Form, but you have more of them more frequently and more damage outside rolled into the base kit. The Insanity Drain situation, I was told the new math on it was it's 6 plus 0.8 every second. So just some easy napkin math you can put together. There is a numerical, you will be pulled out in X seconds. And there is literally very little things you can do about it. Obviously you have the new Void Torrent talent, and that's about all you can do, but extending the duration outside of trying to game more stacks with like lingering isn't going to really be a huge thing, just because it's not going to really give you a whole lot outside. But all your neat animations, your floatiness, your tentacles, those are all still very much there. Base Shadow Fiend also got buffed. I think this should be a 2-minute cooldown personally, but it's 3 insanity each time the Shadow Fiend attacks. On top of that, Mindbender, the 1-minute cooldown version, is 6 insanity each time it attacks. But again, that comes back to the whole, well, this is just really a set and forget. You just cast it once, twice, maybe in a fight, and just kind of gives you some insanity. It doesn't really give you a whole lot. Doesn't do anything else. Yeah. Again, Mind Blast. Base cooldown is 7.5, down from 9. Insanity regen, because of the lower cooldown, is now 12. I have Fortress of the Mind right now, so a little bit off. And Vampiric Embrace, this is a huge buff. So look at the brights in part of this, right? So I have Sand Lane currently talented. Let me turn this off. So Vampiric Embrace is now 2-minute cooldown, reduced from, my notes at, from 3 minutes. It's 85% of any single target shadow damage spell that you deal during the duration of 15 seconds. It does not work on Mind Seer and Shadow Crash, but literally everything else it works on. So dots, flays, even your new AoE spell that AoEs and apply Dark Void that applies Shadowward Pain, it works on this. Because it's technically hitting each target singly. It's not doing like an AoE blanket. Like Shadow Crash obviously throws an AoE bolt, right? That doesn't work on it. So it's a pretty huge change overall. And if you take Sand Lane, which may or may not be a set and forget a lot of the times, reduces the cooldown by 45 seconds and increases the healing dead by 25%. This is an additive increase, which is wonky. So it's 106%. Well, no, sorry. It's a multiplicative on top of it, but it goes over the base amount you can heal at 100%. So it actually adds some healing to the math, which I think that's maybe the wonky part. I don't know if it's intentional. I thought I was supposed to be just bring it to 100%, so it should be 15, but I don't know. Maybe not. But the 1 minute and 15-second cooldown is huge. We have Silence, going to a 4-second lockout across the board, down from a 5-second silence and or a 3-second school lockout. You can also take your Last Word PvP talent that's made a baseline PvE talent that can take the cooldown down to 30 seconds, which is huge. That's just silly. Master Spell copped a pretty big nerf. Now it's a 45-second cooldown. Just a cooldown nerf in that regard. Still an incredibly powerful spell, but obviously can be used too frequently. Leap of Faith is baseline now for all priests, so even Shadow Priest has Leap of Faith back. There we go. We have Powered Shield for the Shadow Priest is a 6-second cooldown reduced by haste with no Weakened Soul Madness, so you could just kind of do that. And then, of course, all priests have Power Word Fortitude back, which is the 10% stamina buff. and everything else is basically the same. But I want to make sure I preface all of that other stuff first. Dispersion does still stop Insanity Drain. And then, of course, you can combine that with Void Torrent as a talent. But again, Void Torrent competes with Lingering Insanity, so there's not a whole lot of point to delaying unless you're actually just doing Burst and you wanted like one more Void Bolt. So you can actually delay and make sure you confer another Void Bolt to get a little more burst in that window. Tendon damage like on a Spine of Deathwing style encounter or something like that. But overall, again, Shadow Priest plays. It just isn't playing as fast or as smoothly as some would like, mostly because of how the Insanity system has been. It's not very good. It's not incentivized very well because the Voidform damage amp isn't anywhere near as much as it used to be, so it's just not as impactful. And if that gets tweaked and they give you the 20% or the 1% haste stacking, I think a lot of these little minutia issues will definitely be cleaned up. Here's a new Dark Ascension. Goes right back into Voidform. But again, yeah, I have to recast at least this dot. So you can go... I did a Voidform test on stream where in the course of 1 minute and 4 seconds, I was out of Voidform, into Voidform, out of Voidform, into Voidform in 1 minute and 4 seconds. Almost a 50-50. Now, of course, varying degrees of the 50-50 there. But that's sort of what your cadence is going to look like for the Shadow Priest. You're going to be in and out of the form roughly on like a 30-second-ish interval. A little bit less time out, a little more time in, but about twice a minute, roughly. This can be really conferred with Dark Ascension, and you can watch me walk through and do a Dark Ascension rotation for, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes straight in the VOD, where because every other rotation you would build with Dark Ascension on the pole, get to 50 Insanity because it generates 50 Insanity, and you're in, and then you just rebuild normally, and then you're back in. Or you can take Legacy of the Void. They have very similar uptimes overall, but obviously Legacy of the Void has a different conveyance to more cleave-oriented, and Dark Ascension can have more burst potential. So, but to go over your talents now, let's bring this up over here so you can compare what you're looking at live. Let me get my notes ready for you. This is... You lost... A lot happened here. Basically what I'm saying. You lost Dominant Mind, Void Ray, Reaper of Souls, Psychic Voice, Masochism, and Power Infusion. Talents that were updated: Twist of Fate. It's now 10% damage and healing for 8 seconds when you activate it under that 35% execute window, down from 20% for 10 seconds. You have Shadow Word Void. This is a handful of changes, so it's 2 charges down from 3, 9-second recharge down from 20-second recharge. GCD cast, of course, is however longer GCD is. That'll be the cast time. Same thing as actually Mind Blast. And then 15 Insanity down from 25. So much more kind of like, I think it's your belt that just adds a charge to Mind Blast. That's just how Shadow Word Void sort of works, right? Mania had its tooltip clarified now, so at max Insanity you gain 35% bonus movement speed instead of just like a stacking amount of it somewhere. Sand Lane, I just put Wicked Good Mate on my notes here. This is going to be a huge talent for utility with the Shadow Priest. Mind Bomb is no longer a stun. However, this does not break on Shadow Priest dots, which I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but it's still your AoE throw disorient. It's a fear. But it's not, it broke there on the Mind Blast, but I go over and I do a whole bunch of, I walk out and attack some owls and stuff, but it's not breaking on dot damage. Maybe it doesn't break on yours, but it will break on, of course, direct damage, but that's not a huge problem because it's still an AoE interrupt, which is massive. Right? Okay. And then we have Shadow Word Death as a talent. This brings me to my last potential point that I still strongly believe this should be baseline. It's... one of the resource generating style executes that I think is so integral to what Shadow Priests do. Obviously, you can still spec Death and Twist of Fate and have that execute window play style, but this just should be baseline. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled this out and gave it back to you baseline because you have it right now. I don't know why this changed because it just doesn't make any sense. But it's 2 charges, 15 Insanity or 30 if the target dies, of course, under 20% health. Because the The Voidform rotation, I can't really test it on target dummies. Voidform rotation, when you have Shadow Word Void and Shadow Word Death in the execute window, is very fun, I'm told. Because you're just, it's just like, it's a Void Bolt, it's a Death, it's a Shadow Word Void, it's a Void Bolt, it's a Death, Shadow Word Void, it's a Void Bolt, it's a little bit of Mind Flay, and then right back to the other casts, right? So it's very fun to weave those all together. You're just like, boom, 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 boom. You're just like this shotgun of Void energy. It's really neat. But that should just be part of the main spec, right? We'll see. Auspicious Spirits is 2 insanity, down from 3, but they travel slower, so... Mindbender, again, is the 6 insanity per attack, down from 8. Legacy the Void has the tweaks where it makes your Void Eruption cast time reduced by 40%. And then insanity at 60 or higher can go into Void form. So a little bit more often, because you can just go in, don't fight it, go right back in, don't fight it. Go, you know, you can keep doing that Cleavy Burst Void Eruption stuff. That works. And then S2M. Oh my goodness. Surrender to Madness. I'm going to spec this right now. Because S2M has like 2 different versions. So it's a 4-minute cooldown now. It's still a double insanity generation. You can move while casting for a minute, and you take damage equal to 90% of your max health after the 1-minute duration ends, and you cannot generate sanity for 30 seconds. This lasts for a minute on the character. So you can go in and out of multiple Void forms during this period of time. Or you can use it to get to Void form quickly, and then have a build made to try to fight the Void form and stay in it as long as you can. Even though I still think that Lingering Insanity as it currently stands is like the best option here, at least from a playstyle perspective, because you can stay in for a little bit longer, and you can get actually some benefit out of Lingering Insanity stacks that stay behind afterwards. But you just activate it. It's on the GCD, that's a major cooldown. And then you just go to town. And you get right back into Void form really quickly. We're actually going to overcap really easily with abilities that give you a lot of insanity because of the double generation, right? But again, now we're probably gonna have to refresh our dots to make sure they stay active during this period of time. We're gonna cast our Mindbender here, even though, I mean, not Mindbender, but just Shadow Fiend itself. But you're still gonna be pulled out regardless of how much you're generating. It's just gonna happen. But you can fight it. And again, I'm at haste levels that are equivalent to Mythic Uldir tier right now, and I'm gonna keep... there we go. I'm out. But again, I still have Shadow Surrender to Madness for another 12 seconds, and I had a lot of good stacks of Lingering Insanity, so we're going right back in here. There we go. I am going to disperse the damage from this hit, because you can disperse the damage from the 90% of your HP. Of course, this also delays my bar there as well. So there's situations here where you can definitely make use of it. I could have got a little more stacks there, but I wasn't really casting very long. So I don't know where that's going to come into play or how the builds will work with S2M, but it's definitely a lot more of a functional cooldown now versus the, oh, you're dead. You can power word shield yourself. You can disperse the damage so you don't actually get chunked and die versus the version online right now where you just, there you go, you're dead. So building a potential around S2M, but again, Void form should have the 20% damage or the 1% haste. It needs a little bit more rewarding because the best part about this mathematically right now that I'm told is the best part about Void form is quite literally the Void Eruption damage. That's like its saving grace right now. But if they can fix the numerical side of things, a lot of good stuff can come out of the Shadow Priest and hopefully fix a lot of the issues. So your new talents that were added, you've seen a couple of them already. Dark Void, I was casting it right there because it's a 30-second cooldown, 2-second cast reduced by haste, 30 Insanity Generator, where you blast your target for some medium shadow damage, but then you apply Shadow Word Pain to all 8 targets within 8 yards. So it's an AoE applicator. It's really nice. It competes with Misery, which is just VT apply, Shadow Word Pain, and of course Twist of Fate right here. Last Word, again, that was your PvP talent for Silence. You have Psychic Horror now. This is a 45-second cooldown. This is separate from your actual Psychic Scream. This is a ranged stun. This is a 4-second ranged stun. And yes, of course, you could still have your Fear. And then, of course, you can still have your Mind Control. And you can still have your Silence. The CC kit for Shadow Priest looks pretty good. Void Torrent. This is just from Xalatath herself. Mostly the same exact functionality, right? There's a lot of heavy shadow damage over 4 seconds. Not reduced by haste because it delays your insanity drain for 4 seconds while you're doing the heavy damage, so you can keep getting more and more stacks. But again, it competes with linear insanity, so like I don't know how it's gonna, whatever. And then Dark Ascension, which is the image I captured for the art for this video. Dark Ascension is very fun. So this is your, oh, this is still on cooldown. Dark Ascension generates 50 insanity. And so basically you activate Voidform at 50 insanity and you go right in to 100%. 1 minute cooldown, where it immediately activates the new Voidform, releasing an explosion of blasts of pure void energy, causing the same amount of damage. Get out of here. I do believe it's the same thing as Void Eruption. Yeah. It just causes Void Eruption when you activate it. Same thing. But it generates 50 insanity. And this ability works on the pull. You can definitely work on the pull because I'll show you right now when this comes off cooldown here. I time that okay. Is that you can, on the pull now, just go right into Voidform. And because you can cast abilities right after you go in, you can pretty much just cap almost immediately. You don't actually lose a bunch of downtime for starting not at 100, because again, the drain to begin with is not very, severe. So you can get a pretty okay starting out Voidform here. You can still cast a Void Bolt on the end of your phase when it's at 0 before the phase change happens. Look at all my lingering look at my apparitions go. They're so loud. So you can still do that totally fine, which happens if you have a little bit of latency or the spell queuing isn't like beta spell queuing. When you fall out of Void Form, you can actually launch a Void Bolt, which will give you insanity outside of that Void Form. So you can get a little bit of jump start back into the next one. A little bit of a skill capish kind of thing there. Not hugely necessary, but it definitely does help the teeter-totter. But it gives you an opener, right? And it gives you, again, the rotation where you basically can build to it, go in, build normally, go back in, and then by the time you come back around the horn, you can go right back into Dark Ascension because it's only a minute long cooldown. So there is so much potential here, similar to the Havoc Demon Hunter as well. But there are definitely some fundamental baseline issues, so hopefully those get looked at. I'll go over the PvP War Mode stuff real quick here. So War Mode, which I didn't actually go over on the broadcast, because we did 5 hours of actually discussing the Shadow Priest overall. You activate this in Stormwind or Orgrimmar, and then you're flagged for PvP in the open world. You'll gain up to 10% increased quest rewards and XP for killing monsters and completing quests, and rewards at the end game for doing world quests. And then, of course, these are active anywhere in arenas, battlegrounds, PvP islands, all that good stuff, right? You can pick and choose whatever kind of build you would like. Go check out WoWDB or WoWhead for their talent calculators. You can put together whatever build you would like to go for. I'm not going to go too in depth here. You grab whatever, your medallion talent, essentially, and then you can pick anything. Any of your talents you could pick right now that are competing, you can take any of them. So, for example, you can take the pretty OP Psyfiend, I guess, sort of. You can take Psyfiend. Last word obviously exists right here. So we'll grab Void Shift as well. And then why not? We'll grab Void Shield. We're going to go be a little bit more defensible. So when you cast it, you cast on yourself, 30% of the damage you deal refills your Power Word Shield. So you can keep your Power Word Shield going with all your dots going on there. Void Shift is the 5-minute cooldown where you and the current targeted party or raid member swap health percentages. Increases the lower health percentage of the 2 to 25% if that amount. So you could save someone. It's like the old health swap thing. So again, save someone or save yourself. Right? If you dip low, you can whoop someone else and you can grab their HP. And Psyfiend is the 45-second cooldown Psyfiend that stands beside you and attacks your target with a ranged Psyflay, which is 1% of the total health of shadow damage every haste scaling. And it's also the slow, because you don't have the slow on your regular Mind Flay anymore, I don't believe. Do you? Yeah, the regular slow is there when you channel it, but obviously your Psyfiend will be channeling essentially forever. So build whatever you'd like. This, of course, help you with world questing. So there might be a build here that actually works really well with world quests. That could be a thing. You can take Super Dispersion, Psychic Link, Void Origins. Void Eruption being instant cast is really funny. So, because with Legacy of the Void and Void Origins, you go in and out of Void Form quite often, and you just throw out those huge explosions, just blah, with no cast time at all, which is neat. It does kind of take away from the amazing animation, because the sound effect yanking out and then getting really quiet, and then that explosion that happens is really fun. one of the best parts about playing Shadow Priest is that animation window. But pick and choose whatever you'd like. Go for it. Look through, make your own build if you're going to be, you know, valiant and courageous enough to do war mode. I'm not going to do it on stream because I'll just get camped. So, but there you go. It's the war mode stuff. And the GCD changes here. I mean, you saw any major cooldown is going to be on the global. VE is on the global cooldown, which is kind of annoying because you lose a little bit of time. But obviously, you're going to have abilities up beforehand. I mean, you'll cast VE and then you'll heal. But I'm pretty sure it's a small price to pay for the fact that how much more powerful VE is overall, especially with Sand Lane, where you're healing for 106% of your direct damage. And of course, every instance of healing, every tick of a single target heal that is then moved around is a new target. So you could essentially heal your 40-man raid group all like once or twice each. Or of course, if you're in a 5-man party, each tick heal will heal and ping pong to a new person every instance. And you can have a lot of that happening all at the same time if you cross-dotted, put some Dark Void out there in a big Mythic Plus pack, and then pop VE. And all those ticks are going to heal different people every single time. So quite good. Obviously, Shadow Crash won't work, but when you cast Void Eruption and you hit all the targets with the Void Bolts, that works too. So all these hits, all of those also completely are in the VE window. That works. But Shadow Priest has a lot of potential. I just hope that they tweak some things there. If, of course, you have any other thoughts, questions, curiosities, want to know more about the Shadow Priest, check out the video description box down below for the VOD. It's for a little bit more back-end context, all the stuff we talked about, or on my Discord and schedule guide. There are links to every single Discord server out there. I think one is still broken right now. I have to make a new one. I think it's for DKs. But the Shadow Priest one for How to Priest Discord, huge, great community, tons of stuff happening in there right now if you want to go join that and keep up to date with the conversation and the resources being built and the feedback that's being sent in. Be a part of that or just absorb it. Go check out that link down below. Click on the icon and you'll get a little link that pops up. It's a Google document. And then you can just join Discord totally free in your browser or download the Discord app and then have it on your phone wherever you go. Keep up to date with that. You can also join my Discord server if you'd like. If you want to be up to date on when videos are going up or conversations there or have any questions for me, please feel free to go do that. All that is down in the video description box down below. Thank you very much for listening to the ramblings. I like what I see here, and I feel for the Shadow Priest community. You're talking to an enhancement shaman main for 12 years. This is the second expansion in a row where we've gone in like, and then gotten some tweaks and then gotten a rework in the expansion. Shadow Priests, I feel you because you did the same thing in Legion that we did. But I will see you all in the next BFA second pass beta rambly video. We did it. Oh my goodness. Oof.